Hey there, Gail here, and I want to share with you how I propagate my geraniums for fall into our next growing season, which will be next spring. So I'm going to flip my camera around and walk you through the steps. Here we go. Okay, so first of all, here is my big, beautiful, bodacious geranium that's already gotten some pruning done on it. This geranium plant, believe it or not, is actually 5 years old. And if you see down the row there, look at all the rest of them. Those are 5 years old. So how do I do this, right? Okay, so this just kind of happened by chance. 5 years ago, I brought in my potted geraniums that I had bought from a greenhouse and put them in my flower pots and brought them in the house and said, let's just see if they overwinter. Well, that happened to have been the winter that we had the winter vortex, and so we were not up here for like 3 months. And these plants that were potted in these flower pots survived without anybody doing anything. They just had cool temperatures of the house because the house was turned down, but it wasn't freezing, and lots of sunshine. So basically the plants went into hibernation, which meant that the plants never froze, they just stopped growing. So keep that in mind when it comes to overwintering things. So here we are in August, and it's time to cut my plants down one time. Now mind you that these plants are about 4 feet in diameter, and they're 5 years old. So I just use my simple pruners, and I just go in and prune off. And for example, if you can see over here, I have a nice green stem because they propagate, they reroot on fresh green stem. So cutting one off, here we go. There's a fresh green stem on my geranium right there, and I've got lots. And so the next thing that I'll do, since I'm holding the camera, I can't do this, but I can tell you how to do it. You'll strip off all the leaves, except you will leave 2 or 3 leaves on the top end. You'll even cut off the blossom because the blossom will drain energy from the plant being able to push new roots from the bottom. The roots are being pushed from this bottom space down here called the leaf note, which is kind of hidden in this leaf joint. Okay, so how does this all happen? Well, let's go down to a flower pot. Here's a flower pot that I just have some Miracle Grow moisture control mixed in with some extra perlite. I do about a 50-50 mix in the dirt down here. Then I use rooting hormone powder. So I would take my fresh cutting that's been stripped, and let's see if I can do this with my fingertips and try to show you, sorry, a little out of focus there, and try to show you what I mean. I'm just sort of stripping some of the leaf material off the bottom of the stem. There you go, see that? So you want to have about 2 leaf nodes that go into the soil, just a good idea, because each leaf node will generate new roots for the springtime. And then I'll take my pruners and recut the end of it, but for today's video, I won't do that, only because I don't have enough fingers to do those things. So I would take some of my rooting hormone, and I just get this at the local garden shop. It's usually $6 or $7, and I would dump a little bit into the cap right here. So let's just pretend that I dip some into the cap, and then I would dust the end of my, oh, there is some in the cap, dust the end of my cutting so that you can see it's a little bit dusted. Here, I'll dip it in there. There you go. Knock off the excess a little bit, dust it in there. Then the next thing that I do, and just to make sure I don't spill my rooting hormone, I'm just going to recap that real quick because I'm working with one hand. There we go. I'll just put that over here in my bucket. I would use this bucket to collect all my cuttings at one time, which I'm in the process of doing. And so in my flower pot that I'm going to put cuttings into, this has been a 50-50 mix of perlite and moisture control soil mix. Mix it up real good. I actually mixed it up in this white flower pot over here, dumped it into here, and then I just take a pencil and I drill a hole. There you go. See, I have a hole drilled right there. Then I take my cutting that's been dipped in the hormone and I push it down in there. And I can use my fingertips and smush it around. I want to make sure that I don't have any flower blossoms because that puts stress onto the plant. Yes, I know I need a camera guy to help me with this. So I'm going to cut those off, cut off the blossoms. Come on, pruners. pruners are dull from being worked and not sharpened enough. Okay, so I've got my cutting in there, and I only really need to have 2 or 3 leaves, so I can take off a couple more. Should I leave these little stem pieces on? No, those should be clipped right back to there. It's just best for the plant. And I will fill this whole pot with drilled holes. Here's a finished product right here. See this one? This has got easily a dozen cuttings in it. So when you go to the greenhouse and you buy a flower pot like this, you're buying a flower pot that's got 3 cuttings in it that will grow into a pretty geranium flower pot. And these original flower pots that I'm talking about actually had 3 flower pots put into them when I originally started. So one flower pot's got the cuttings to support the growth of literally 3 individual hanging baskets or flower pots if you wanted to. So what I like to do is just put everything into the into a starter flower pot like this one right here. And then the next thing is to take this flower pot, which has been dampened now. I wet it down. I'll put it into a plastic bag. The best plastic bag that is so easy for us to use is the one that we get like our sheets or our comforters in that's got a zipper in it. I just put the whole bag right in there. That works as a greenhouse. And I keep the zipper open, but I put it into sunshine or partial sun. Here's the real magic you need to know. The soil temperature of that the plants are growing in now needs to remain 60 degrees or above. That's why it needs to have solar gain. Need to have a little bit of leaf material because the leaves support photosynthetic production, which supports root development. The plant hormone, which is over here, stimulates the plants to push and to discern the plant cells into creating roots. So in about 6 weeks, we'll have roots from all of these. This entire flower pot can stay in that little greenhouse bag all winter. And if you're like my house, I turn my heat down on my lake house and I bring my big flower pots like these in. They've all been cut down. Here's an example of one back over there. Can you see those? It's been cut down. And they'll be brought back into the house in the fall of the year. And they will be allowed to dry to the point of wilt, and then I'll give them another water. So as plants, specifically geraniums, overwinter, we want to put them in that kind of suspended animation kind of mode. Remember we talked about that earlier, where they sort of don't grow but they don't die. And that's where the roots stay semi-moist with not too much water. So if you have a lake house that you turn the heat down on, but you've got great sunshine, this is the plant that you can overwinter in your house in a flower pot over the winter time, and then bring them out in the spring after frost. Give them some great fertilizer and watch what happens. They start to grow. So here's my final point. This is the fertilizer I use in my plants. Why is this such a good one? Because it's got an intense amount. Let's come to the back side here. It's got an intense amount of phosphorus. And so the ratio on this is 15, 30, 15, and the 30 is the phosphorus. Phosphorus supports the extra development of flower buds and roots. This is real important for plants to have in the beginning of the springtime, so they can grow into big things like this, and like that down the way there. These plants are 5 years old. I repeat this every spring, and every fall I cut them back and make new starts. Isn't this a fun way to recoup your investment of plants on the first time around? This is still the same genus and species that I bought of geraniums 5 years ago. So I hope you like this video, and I hope it helps you. If you have any questions, feel free to private message me or call me, and I'll be happy to walk you through anything I wasn't clear on. Thanks for watching.